what defines the DNA of a Wilson product, and is that been a consistent thing since the start of the company, or has that evolved in any way?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Wilson Audio, the thread of authentic excellence has always been a part of our motto and what we inject into any product development cycle. So to get authentic excellence, you have to have excellence in all things. And from the inception of Wilson Audio, when my parents were in a garage, they wanted to make the best. They wanted to hear deeper into the music and get more of the emotional satisfaction from the recordings. And to do that, it's refining every little piece of the total system, the loudspeakers in this case, that we manufacture. So from the very first watts and the very first wham that was made, it's excellence in all things. And that's a tradition that we continue to do today. It's evaluating every single piece and making sure that that is the best piece for the job.
Sure. Okay, so it's an interesting place where you're standing right now, and there's some sort of lunar landing and NASA images.
Yeah.
How does that correlate, or how does that tie in with Wilson Audio?
Yeah, so in my office, this used to be my father's office, there are vignettes and stuff all over the office that are points of inspiration. And this particular vignette is, it brings to light the whole concept of, isn't it amazing what we can do when we band together and we work toward a common, we call them BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goal, big goals, big dreams, right? And when Kennedy said, hey, we will land on the moon, we will put a person on the moon, it wasn't, well, maybe we'll do it. It was, how do we get that done? And so many people came together to make that happen, and it's amazing that we were able to make that happen. From Wilson Audio's DNA, look at a recent example, which is the Chronosonic XVX, the Four Seasons variant. There was a point where we had all four seasons built up, and we lined them all up together, and I had all the craftspeople come down and look at them. And even if we never sold a single one, looking at winter, summer, autumn, and spring, and seeing the color combinations and all the detail work in it, it was nice to step back and just say, look at what we can accomplish together when we all work towards something that's bigger than ourselves, that's greater than what the world sees as average. And so when I look at this, it's really shooting for the stars. Think beyond yourself. Even if there's something that you can't do by yourself, band together with people with common interests, and it's amazing how far you'll go.
Sure. And it's interesting because 99% of the employees for work at Wilson Audio are very, very long-term people that have been in the team.
Yeah.
How do you keep that cohesive workflow from people that have been here for such a long time, to not only make them feel as though they're part of a team, but also in terms of improving them and exposing them to different aspects of building a loudspeaker, a Wilson Audio loudspeaker?
Yeah, we like to get feedback from everyone. Doesn't matter where you work, we like to get feedback on how we can do things better. So engaging everyone in the process, the creative process of how can we build it better in the fab shop? How can we create a better type of paint? Ruby Red is actually the result. Ruby Red Pearl is actually the result of Brian, our master painter, me saying, hey, come up with a really cool color. We've got these 4 new pearls, we need 5, so come up with something that's fun. And he was able to work out the details on that, and he created a really gorgeous color that's actually in my house right now, so I like it that much.
Okay.
Another thread there is the concept of divine kinship, that in the building, the way that we treat each other is the recognition that we're more than who we are and our stewardship in this building. That we have families, we have spouses, we have aspirations beyond the walls of Wilson Audio, and being empathetic towards that and helping each other out where we can.
Sure. Okay, as far as the products themselves, and putting aside the changing driver technology over the years, how does that progression between What Puppy, the first version, and the Sasha, what's happened in between in terms of the Wilson philosophy in designing loudspeakers?
Our North Star has never changed.
Mm-hmm.
Our North Star is live, unamplified music. Mm-hmm. So with any design, during that time frame, if you go back to the Watt Puppy, that was the best we could do with the equipment and the technology we had at that time to get as close to the music as possible. Mm-hmm. Now fast forward, and XVX and the WAM Master Chronosonic and Alexia V, these are the representations of our capabilities as a company, how we can optimize and maximize each of the individual components. From a grassroots level, we are always doing research into driver technology, into materials research, into all the individual components, whether it be solder or binding posts or wires, all the pieces that play together. So that hasn't changed. And what you're seeing now is a current reflection of our capabilities.
You're in an interesting situation because you've started at Wilson Audio at a very young age, and you've worked in just about every section of department of Wilson Audio. So you have a perspective which is very wide-ranging as far as the company. How has that helped you and Wilson Audio?
Yeah, oh man, Wilson Audio is so different than when I was a kid. I would sweep the parking lots and clean out the then fab shop, the wood shop, because we used a lot of woods back in the days and we don't now. And I would do that to earn money to go out and play video games, buy pizza and buy gummy worms and whatnot. And, my parents always gave me opportunity. They didn't just hand me cash, which was something I'm really grateful for. So looking back at, from sweeping the parking lots to working in crossovers into production, the fab shop, I didn't just work in the fab shop, built relationships in the fab shop, and some of those relationships, the guys are still here, building and creating with me. And so the camaraderie that we were able to develop as we were working together has really helped Wilson Audio. Because as I'm designing a speaker, I'm asking for feedback. Hey guys, as far as building this, what would you change on this? How would you change the build process, or are these curves, are they too ambitious, to be able to build? And so my father, very wisely, he put me through the paces and gave me the experience and the opportunity to learn how a loudspeaker is made in every area, right? Those insights now translate to when I'm designing and I'm working with the engineers and we're cutting up an enclosure, or I'm developing, organic flow within the design, I kind of know my boundaries, right? It can always improve, and I'm always learning. And the craft people here at Wilson Audio, they provide very good feedback. So to answer your question, developing those relationships, me gaining the insights from every step in manufacturing, the manufacturing process of a loudspeaker, has led to efficiencies in design, and we're really pushing the envelope of what manufacturing can do in the loudspeaker space.
Sure. Okay, so in keeping with the team theme, when a new product is being developed and you're going through some listening sessions and voicing the speaker, how much of a team effort is that? Is that maybe 2 or 3 key people, like yourself and a couple of people, or is that a much wider thing? Do you actually bring in some other members of Wilson Audio from not necessarily speaker development side, just to get their opinions as well? Or how does that work, that process of voicing a speaker?
That's a really good question. At the beginning of product development, when we have our first prototype, there's a lot of pops, ticks, sweeps, noise, white noise, pink noise. No one wants to listen to that, right? So I developed the crossover along with Vern. Vern puts it all together, creates it in the digital domain. We verify in reality, and then we push that development forward. When we start playing music, and I'm able to fine tune the crossover and take those component values, plus or minus 10%, plus or minus 5%, and I'm whittling it down, and the SoundStage is opening up, and the micro detail around the instrument, for instance, the interface of the bow and the string. So all those micro details are starting to express themselves. There are times in room number 2, which isn't a great sounding room, that I do bring in, Trent and Jaron and Bill and Dave will be experiencing it a lot more, but he's already had a couple experiences where I get excited. I get excited about, hey, listen to this. This is why we do what we do. There is a real difference between option A and option B. The decisions we're making here in R&D aren't just based on a coin toss. It's based off of what is our North Star, live, unamplified music. And so I do engage the team and have people listen. Sometimes it's a little earlier than the final development, and that's to get the response. How do you, does this sound like you would anticipate a speaker of this size or whatever it is? And their feedback is valuable. And before I ever sign off and finish a product, I always have a listening session with the sales team, and I go through and play music and get feedback, and this is what the system's capable of doing. And at that point, when it's at the end, I'm always happy when everyone is blown away.
Sure. So that's an interesting thing, because I know that as a family, you used to travel to Vienna to listen to live music, an orchestra and choirs and so on. And I'm wondering whether that's still happening to a certain extent, whether it's Vienna or somewhere else, or here in Salt Lake City. You have an incredible venue here as well. So how often does that happen? And obviously that influences you a lot.
Yes. My wife, she loves to sing. And so I have music in my home, and a point of reference there. COVID has really, messed with our cycle. We're starting to get back into this rhythm of having guests come to Wilson Audio and adventuring out further and further. I do look forward to going back and listening in concert halls. The last concert hall that I was in the Concertgebouw. And that was years ago. It was before COVID. So.
And what a venue that is.
Oh, I know. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The way that the sound rolls up and over on the ceiling, and the bass shaking my pant legs, kind of rolling across the ground. There are certain things that you have to experience and you have to feel, and that gets injected almost into your DNA for a reference. So,
sure. What a reference. Okay. So, on a more personal thing, and you may or may not have been asked this before, but how does music affect you personally? And what do you listen to? What really kind of like stimulates your desire to create speakers?
Yeah.
As far as music.
There are a lot of different ways to engage with a sound system, and a lot of different ways to engage with music. And there's some people that can memorize liner notes and know all the musicians and all that. I've got a mild form of dyslexia. It takes me about 5 minutes to read a page. So what that's done is it's made it so I'm a better proofreader, because I take my time. I have to go slow, right? And when it comes to engaging with music is what's the desired emotional state I want to get from this experience. And there's some times when I want to really sink into nostalgia and go back in time. There's some times when I want to feel inspired, and there's sometimes when I'm critically listening and evaluating. Now for me, most of my day is listening to music on a critical level, right? So going home, there are times when I don't want to think about the nitty gritty.
Minutia,
the nitty gritty, and just allow the music to stir my soul. Mozart's Requiem is one that every time I listen to it, I think about him as a person, and he knew he was dying. He was commissioned to write this. I have to think as an artist that he was writing that to some degree for himself, right? And so allowing my mental, state to kind of flow into that, and it's just such a powerful recording and performance composition. There are times when I just want to listen to some Bob Marley, right?
Sure. Yeah. I'm with you, brother.
Yeah. And so anyway, it really depends on. I'm not the type of listener, and this may be disappointing to some people. I'm not the type of person that memorizes the liner notes.
Yeah, sure.
Right. My engagement with music is really purely eyes closed. How does my heart feel with it?
Sure, more visceral sort of experience. So, having said that, are there a lot of goosebump moments when you develop a particular speaker, and even more so when you develop the Alexia V, which I have and love and grateful for.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, free zone. The hair standing up on the back of your neck and
Yes.
whatnot. I do love it when a speaker and a system can do that for you, and a piece of music. During the development of any of our speakers, there's a point where we're up in the Wilson music room, my dad's listening room, now the WAM demo room, but we moved the left channel WAM out of the way, and that's where the prototype rests. And that's its final development location. And that prototype doesn't move out of that room until it gets to a point to where it far exceeds my expectations. And there are goosebumps involved with that evaluation process. There are moments that, it's 12, 1 a.m. that I'm, finishing up something, and I've been listening for, 13, 14 hours in the day. And yeah, I'm just thinking, there are times when I listen so critically and so intently, and I listen a lot with my eyes closed, sure, right? That my eyesight will actually, it'll take me about 10, 15 minutes for my eyesight to kind of come back to normal, because I've been training my brain at that moment to use acoustic cues to create an image. And sure, it's almost like I'm seeing with my ears.
Yeah.
And so there's something there that I hope that someone can help me understand in the future. I feel like there's a slight rewiring in the mind.
Sure, there's different receptors that you're kind of channeling and you're adopting,
yeah,
into this task.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so on those nights, I'll get to a point and I won't stop. It's like I can't stop until I know that I got the next best, that there was an improvement. Mm-hmm. There are nights in development where, it's 2 steps forward and the next day is 1 step back, 2 steps forward, and it's a back and forth. And I always strive for those 2 step forward, 3 step forward nights, mm-hmm, right? And, after a long period of time, that's quite a bit of improvement. So,
of course. And that's when you sign off?
That's when I sign. That's when I sign off. Yeah. I get some rest.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I have the sales team come up and have everyone listen to it, and they give me their feedback, and I get really excited about those moments.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Daryl. Really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming out and visiting.